Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Norscan horde is off on the march, and they are facing off against the High Elves today. We have myself leading the Norscans, and we have Jay Phoenix is going to be leading the High Elves. So for the Norscan army that I have brought today, we have a bunch of Marauders and Berserkers, so very heavy on the infantry department. We have 5 Marauders total, one of which is the Icehorn Marauders, the ROR unit, and they do have Immunopsychology. And then we do have 4 Marauder Berserkers behind them, so really looking to overwhelm the High Elf forces, as they often will go kind of small on the front line with Silver and Guard, so looking to kind of overwhelm, get into that back line is the plan for this army. We do have Wulfric the Wanderer as well. He's going to be bringing Seafang, Hunter of Champions, and Fight or Die on top of that, so pretty much bringing all of his abilities. We also have a Fimir Balefiend of Shadows going to be bringing the Pendulum and Enfeebling Foe. Pendulum really good getting through all those archers and the Silver and Guard. Not a whole lot of that today from the High Elf army, but we also have some Miststalkers as well, armor piercing, and they do have missile resist, and they do have stock as well. So very good at getting close into those ranged units without being seen. And then we do have some mobility as well. We have some Marauder Horsemen, 2 of those, and 1 Marauder Horse Master as well. Looking for a little bit of counter skirmishing, as the High Elves can be bringing that as well. And speaking of the High Elves, let's see what they have for us today. So we do have triple Shadow Warriors, a very unorthodox build, definitely not what you are going to be traditionally seeing from the High Elves. And they do have stock, and they have Master Ambusher as well, so they can move hidden in any terrain, and they can fire whilst running as well. So a very interesting unit to be bringing, but looking for a very mobile force from the High Elves, as they also do have the Illyrian Reaver Archers, and then they have 3 Silver Helms and 1 of the Fireborn, and the Fireborn can do quite well. It is pretty much a hard counter to any Skin Wolves that the Norscans can bring, but because of the Fireborn, Norscans usually do stay away from bringing those. We also have a couple of Rangers as well, looking just for a little bit for a front line, as the rest is all just kind of very ranged units. And we do have Teclis on his bird as well. He is bringing Net of Admatok, the Flaming Sword of Ruin, Regrowth, Potion of Koroi, and the Bound Fiery Convocation. So a very expensive lord in the form of Teclis, and those are our army. So let's get things going, as the Shadow Warriors are already opening up into the Marauders. Now the Marauders are leading with all their shielded variants, but now the Shadow Warriors are firing right into the Berserkers and doing a ton of damage. These Berserkers are just getting lit up by the Shadow Warriors, and the Illyrian Reaver Archers on the far flank are getting counter skirmished by the 3 Horsemen, so they will be being pushed back. The Illyrian Reaver Archers do better than the Horsemen, but with 3 of them it is quite a bit, though there is a overcasted net and a bound convocation is going to be going right through, as the Silver Helms get a nice charge off into them as well, and they're going to get a little roasted themselves, but a lot of damage going the way of the Horsemen. Pretty much as one tried to retreat, it got caught into that overcasted net. But if we take a look on the far flank, the Marauders are being shot down by the Shadow Warriors, though there is a ton of infantry right now, and the Shadow Warriors, they do have limited ammo. It is not without limit, so they will be taking quite a bit of damage there. But otherwise, now the front line is starting to come in, but the Rangers are just going to continue to kind of essentially kite away, but a nice charge by the Silver Helms and the Fireborn. But here comes Wulfric as well, looking to get a counter charge into the Fireborn, and he will do quite well, as the Fimir as well do try and get in, and they do get some into the Silver Helms, but a nice Seafang is going to be going down right through all of the Shadow Warriors right here, pretty much clipping through 2 of the units, doing some decent damage. So they are very loose formation, so they do take a lot less damage from those pendulums and stuff, and the same thing with the Rangers. So those pretty much wind spells that the Norscans have just aren't as useful here, but all 3 of the skirmish cav for the Norscans are being pushed off from the Convocation, as well as some fire from the Illyrian Reaver Archers. But now these Fireborn have taken quite a bit of damage, and there is regrowth from Teclis right now, but those Fireborn taken so much damage, down to 28 models, and they will not be getting any of those back. But otherwise, the infantry department, they've taken quite a bit of damage from the Norskins here, from the Shadow Warriors and the charging from the Silver Helms. But now we have all of these horsemen are back, though they are a little clumped up right now, and another convocation could really put the nail in the coffin for those units. But Wulfric is kind of off by himself, dealing with the Fireborn, doing quite a bit of damage, though. He is a very large target, and his charges do just so much damage right now. Otherwise, the Silver Helms are engaged with just a bunch of infantry right now, though the front line, and there is a nice little pendulum, though, from the Fimir Balefin. And the Fimir Balefin is now engaging with Teclis. He does cast Enfeebling Foe on him to kind of allow him to last through, but otherwise these Marauder Berserkers are just chewing through these Rangers very, very quickly. They do not hold up well against that kind of firepower, and especially right here where they are just getting sandwiched. So both of the Rangers taking a bunch of damage right now. Otherwise, the Leman Reaver Archers trying to kind of keep things occupied with these Horsemen. Those Horsemen are able to kind of chase off the Silver Helms right now, and here is another Convocation going to go right through these Marauders and Icehorn Marauders. A very good cast there, doing a ton of damage, and Teclis is still engaging with that Fimir Balefin. Fimir Balefin holding off very, very well. It's just another Arcane Conduit going off. I'm trying to get as much magic regen as he can. Though really it's going to be enfeebling foes from here on out. Not a whole lot of good targets for those pendulums unless things get grouped up. Miststalkers trying to get into these Shadow Warriors, but the Fireborn are kind of forced to screen them out as best they can. Fireborn don't really want to be engaged with the Miststalkers. Miststalkers are very good against Cav with their armor piercing. Large targets. They're not the great weapon variant, but they still do very well against them, and those Fireborn, their fire damage is not really going to be super useful in that particular matchup. But now Wulfric continuing just to hound them, keeping them away from the infantry if he can. But now the Shadow Warriors really getting pushed back into the corner of the map right here. Another Sea Fang, though, about to go down, trying to clip as many units, and it does go through a bit of the Shadow Warriors, but the Shadow Warriors are on slivers of ammo right now, and their usefulness is just about run out, and is pretty much going to be just down to Teclis, who has actually been taking some significant damage from that Fimir Balefin, surprisingly enough. I mean, the Fimir Balefin does do magic damage, but otherwise these Marauders just withstanding the onslaught of these cavalry units from the High Elves, doing fairly well in that regard, but it's pretty much down to there's not a whole lot left that can deal with Wulfric the Wanderer at this point. He is just at pretty much full HP, and I mean, the Fireborn can do some work, and Teclis can, but we'll see if they're able to really pull things off. These Leman Reaver Archers finally getting caught out at the edge of the map by these Marauders and the Horsemen here. But otherwise, the mobility advantage seems to be getting lost by the High Elves, as the Norskins are pretty much just chasing everything that they can. The Fimir Balefin still engaged with Teclis right now. Teclis has pretty much been trying to deal the final blow to that Fimir Balefin pretty much all match, but has been unable to do so. I mean, that was pretty much a good target for him to be taking. I mean, he couldn't really reliably take Wulfric down, because Wulfric just has so much HP and armor that he's just not going to be able to take him down quickly enough, even with the help of pretty much the Fireborn and all the Shadow Warriors. That's usually a trap that a lot of players fall into, trying to snipe out Wulfric when he is on his mammoth. It just isn't very easy to do. Now it looks like the Shadow Warriors are starting to rout, and as long as these Horsemen can engage them, they should be pretty much run off the map. They are very, very close to that edge. Otherwise, the Shadow Warriors able to actually rout off some of these Marauders here, but there are some more units chasing them in the form of these Miststalkers, so those Miststalkers probably going to want to be supporting this unit of Marauders here, as the Fireborn are going to be trying to peel off, get some more cycles charging in. But Teclis has finally been able to rout off this Fimir Balefin here, but still the balance power very much in Norskin's favor in this late game, as the Silver Helms do shatter. A lot of units can be shattering off the field right now. These Shadow Warriors have some health left, but they're pretty much used up their usefulness, and these Fireborn down to 11 models themselves, and very low on HP as well, and they really cannot deal with Wulfric at this time. And depending on the Winds of Magic for Teclis, there should be some regrowths in his back pocket, so he should be able to get healed up at least himself, as we have these Marauder Horsemen and Horse Masters trying to come in and deal some damage. So it looks like we got a little bit of a net of Adontak going down, looking to keep them in place for these Fireborn to deal some damage, as the Horse Masters are able to pull off and still get some shots in. But a nice charge by these Fireborn into these Horsemen, trying to get rid of the mobility. But here comes Wulfric the Wanderer in all his glory, as well as another Sea Fang as well, as the there are a few units, and it doesn't really clip any of the units as they are able to pull out in time, but Wulfric is hot on the tail of these Fireborn, and they are going to be routing off the field right now. So it is just down to Teclis. I mean, balance of power is still... I mean, it's very much in Norsca's favor, but with only Teclis and a unit of Shadow Warriors left, it is surprisingly close to the center with just those models left on the map. Teclis still chasing after that Fimir Balefin, looking to finally kill him, but he is still holding on, and he is very far from the rest of the match, so he isn't really going to be supporting any of the other units. And these Shadow Warriors over here, they are hidden right now, so the Norscan forces cannot see them. I mean, they're not really going to play a huge factor. I mean, even one of these Marauders is going to be able to deal with those Shadow Warriors, and these Horsemen are just finishing off the job here with these Fireborn, pushing them off all the way to the edge of the map, and they do finally shatter there, and Teclis has finished off that Fimir Balefin. So Teclis is pretty much going to have to try and deal with Wulfric the Wanderer here. I mean, these both are very, very tanky characters. Teclis should have some Winds of Magic left for a regrow, so he should be able to heal himself up in this matchup. But I mean, Wulfric the Wanderer, he has his Hunter of Champions, and he is going to be supported by these Miststalkers. And the Miststalkers are really, with Wulfric, are going to be the hardest thing for Teclis to deal with. And just the massive infantry, because Teclis, even on his bird, he's not, without a very, very good bound convocation, he isn't going to be able to deal with all of these units, as now the Horsemen and Horsemasters are going to try to be dealing with the Shadow Warriors. They still don't see him right now. I think they're just trying to look for anything else on the map, but now they are visible, so these Horsemen and Horsemasters are going to now likely going to retarget themselves, and they are going to all go for the Shadow Warriors, as is all of this infantry, as they just charge after these Shadow Warriors, and they should quickly break them down. There's just so many troops, though they are blobbing a bit right now, so Teclis with a bound convocation could wreck through all these troops, and we'll see what happens. But he does engage in melee himself right here, but those Shadow Warriors quickly, very quickly routing off the field, and Hunter of Champions does go down on top of Teclis, and in comes Wulfric, doing a ton of damage on that first strike, and it is just down to Teclis on his bird against just the mass of Norscan forces. Is now the Miststalkers finally coming in, as well as Fight or Die also engaged, but that is going to be our match, as Teclis does rout in the end, and Norsca will take the match. So I'll take a look at the after battle report a little bit. I kind of like where Jay Phoenix was going. However, I mean, it's really hard to make this kind of playstyle work. I mean, especially if, I mean, the Norscan forces that I brought went very heavy on the infantry department, so it was very wide, so there was a lot of targets to shoot at. Had it gone a little bit more elite, a little more tighter formation, these Shadow Warriors may have been able to pay for themselves a little bit better, but there's just way, way too many models to take out. And with the Fimir and Wulfric, I mean, the Silver Helms really weren't going to be able to do a whole lot, and the Fireborn just had so much work to do, and it just wasn't quite enough, and Teclis is just so expensive. It is very hard for him to make back his cost, because he is well over 3,000 gold when he has all of his abilities and stuff, especially when he's on his Phoenix, though he is very tanky in the process. And yeah, it was just a little too many units, I think, for this High Elf army to really deal with. I mean, traditionally, you're going to be seeing, like, 4 Silver and Guard, lots of archers, just pretty much saturate the Norscan forces with archer fire, and those Silver and Guard just hold off for so long. But with the Silver being so prevalent in this matchup, the Norscans will bring Seafang and Pendulum and to really just chew through those units as well, though they do survive that fairly decently. But a very fun match, and I do hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.